I'm Master Saturn. Thank you for joining me for another BDSM United podcast in our BDSM Horror Story little mini series here. Last time we went through some this or that questions that were plagued with risks and plagued with consent issues. And we talked about some of the mottos that we have within BDSM to help prevent BDSM horror stories from happening. But today, let's look at accidents and injuries. They are a likely byproduct of BDSM and kinky activities where things like impact, bondage, discipline, physical, and emotional sadomasochistic play are all commonplace. Uh, Kink and BDSM, it's true, they're not safe, but they can be made safer. Adequate risk mitigation can limit the occurrence of injuries. And learning more about an activity from trusted peers, those with relevant experience, can also help you be aware of the kinds of things that can go wrong within our lifestyle. Excuse me. The law of averages means that the more you play, the more likely you are to get hurt. But how likely are you to get hurt? And really, who's at the most risk? Did you know almost half of kinksters have experienced an accident during BDSM? That's about 43% of those involved. Of course, the longer you're in our lifestyle, the more likely you are to experience these kinds of incidents, no matter how much you try to be safe. Things can happen. 1 in 4 newcomers experience an accident or injury in their first year of kink and BDSM play. More than a quarter of kinksters, 27%, experienced their first accident in the first year of being an active member of the kink lifestyle. We're not sure whether this is a lack of experience or because of the frenzy that a lot of newcomers experience, where they get a taste of BDSM and they start putting themselves in wildly unsafe circumstances just so that they can try to experience, instead of being patient, try to experience the same kinds of sensations again, because they want all the things and they want them all now and they want them all at the same time and they want them from whoever they can get to give them to them. You see where we're going with that? So you want to be patient. You want to be progressive. You want to do things. If you want to mitigate risk, you want to do things with people who you have properly vetted, not just anyone holding a stick or a paddle. Just let them, or anyone that has a bundle of rope. You can see where you're going to get into a lot of trouble if you let that frenzy take over. You know that you're going to experience this frenzy. And you know that because you lack experience, the chances of you picking somebody who also lacks experience and you two doing things with a lack of experience together is very likely. Did you know that a third of BDSM beginners will have an accident or injury? It's probably not surprising, but beginners account for nearly half of the kinky people out here. Sharing knowledge and experiences about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly is really important. And that's why we want to do it here on our podcast. So 61% of beginners and amateurs will have an accident, while intermediates have half as many accidents as beginners. So once you get a little bit of experience, that amount of risk goes down. But advanced lifelong practitioners are just as likely as beginners to experience an accident, and every expert has experienced an accident or injury in at least one of their scenes because they're doing a lot of scenes, and something somewhere is going to go wrong. So how bad are these accidents and injuries? What are we really talking about here? Well, sticks and stones may break your bones, and BDSM might just do the same. 55% of the accidents that occur are really considered mild. 31% are considered moderate. 11% are severe and very life-threatening. And only 4% are life-altering, like you broke somebody's neck and they're paralyzed for life, or 4% being absolutely fatal. You choke somebody out and they died. 4% is pretty rare given our community and the activities that we're doing. So severe is mild scarring or broken bones, and life-altering is permanent disfigurement, dismemberment, and death. When you flip these statistics, it means a kinkster only has an 85% chance of not experiencing an injury like a broken bone or worse. So it's noting that the statistic is based on the responses to surveys that have been done on the issue and not worldwide. While minor injuries might seem like part and parcel of kink and BDSM lifestyle, it's worth remembering that all injuries that happen are unexpected, meaning that primarily people who get into S&M and into kinky play are not trying to intentionally harm or hurt anyone. Broken bones, nerve damage, loss of consciousness are among the most severe injuries. From tales of testicular trauma to bottoms passing out, the possible accidents and injuries cover all kinds of incidents. The lasting damage sustained by some kinksters affects their ability to work, and others are left with lasting marks against their consent that take weeks or even months to fade. Accidental bloodletting is a common, unexpected byproduct of kink and BDSM, and are the cases of bottoms blacking out during a scene. By far, the most frequent reports are of unexpectedly triggering a play partner, followed closely by newcomers not realizing that they can say no, or not knowing when to say no, or how to say no, or not knowing that they need to say no. They think that the tingling sensation that they're getting is what it's supposed to feel like, when they are not supposed to have tingling in their fingers when they're being roped up, for instance. Although less common than expected, accounting for just 4% of incidents, it's critical to note that rape also does happen in kink and BDSM. It's not something that we want to overlook. There are people who do not get your consent to do the things that they're going to do. That's why you want to make sure that you vet those people out, that anyone who seems unsafe, anyone who has severe red flags, anyone who has a bad reputation, that you take into account those things before trying to play with them. Because they could take something that you want to be playful and can turn it into a very rapey situation. So Not everyone is going to within our lifestyle. There's going to be predators, and there's going to be just shitty people, and they're not going to practice consent. There's going to be people that are haphazard, and they're not going to practice being risk aware. And so the way that someone responds to an accident is the difference between how much of a BDSM horror story it is and how much of just a oops, that was an accident, let's take care of you, let's not let it happen again. Oftentimes alcohol and drug use are some of the most influential factors in BDSM scene safety. The reason being isn't a consent issue as much as that it is somebody being not being of a sharp mind and overlooking things, or being a little clumsy. Within a kinkster's own scenes, the participant's patience is considered the most important factor to ensure safety, accounting for a quarter of all the highest responses, meaning that you need to be patient. You need to be considerate. You don't need to rush through anything or go too hard into anything. You just need to be relaxed and progressive. That means you add little bits at a time. Kinksters consider first aid training important, but not important enough to keep their training up to date or necessarily having valid medical training. So the most important, knowing that, is that you want to have enough first aid training to account for the specific activity you're doing, but you want to have access to being able to call 911 and follow the directions given by the person on the other line while you're waiting for medical professionals to come and intervene if the accident is bad enough. So we definitely want you to know that there's a potential for a BDSM horror story, but there's also a potential just for a story that you have that you can tell of something that didn't go right, and that you are the hero of that story, to where you made it right. You know, an accident or an injury happened, and you were the perfect partner who took good care of that accident or injury, and you made sure that it was as least severe as it could possibly be given the situation, and that you tried to mitigate it. And even though it happened, you are trying your best to care for and have consideration of the person that you're playing with. I'm Master Saturn. Thank you for joining me for this BDSM United podcast. In our BDSM Horror Story series, we hope that you practice really good vetting, really good safety. You do lots of homework and lots of research. You listen to lots of podcasts, and shameless plug. And you can find all of those podcasts, lots of them, to over 260 episodes, at bdsmunited.com. You can also find our uncensored social media experience at mastersaturn.com. Thank you for joining me for this BDSM Horror Story podcast, and we hope to bring you more, hopefully maybe a little less horror stories next time.